Good morning friends and welcome to the pre-market view. US markets were flat, no major change. Dow was about 8 points down and the Nasdaq was marginally up about 6 odd points, and we continue to see a lot of strength in the US markets. In fact, both S&P and Nasdaq continue to remain at the record high levels, and it remains to be seen what kind of economic data points are we really going to see over the next few days, particularly the non-farm payroll data, where the expectations are that it's going to be about 1,75,000, and based on that, what is the stance that the Fed takes on the tapering? Though a large section of the market believes that the tapering will happen only in the next year, which is definitely a bit of a relief for the emerging markets liquidity flow. European markets were marginally up. In fact, some of the markets like France and UK were down also, and some of the markets like Germany were marginally up. In fact, the data points that came out from Germany about the industrial production were better than market expectations. And when we look at the Asian markets today morning, we're seeing a bit of a negative tick in markets like Hang Seng and Shanghai. Both of them are down about 0.6 and 0.4% respectively, and the Nikkei is in fact flat, and SGX Nifty is also suggesting that we are going to start with a negative tick of almost about 25 odd points, somewhere around 6,200 odd levels. In terms of flows, friends, FIs continue to pump in more than 1,000 crore in the cash market. They were biased to the tune of almost about 1,024 crore. The domestic institutions were sellers to the tune of about 724 crore, and in the index futures we've seen the FIs buying to the tune of about 164 crore. In fact, in this October series so far, FIs have pumped in almost about 8,500 crore. And one of the important takeaways from yesterday's market was that the rupee in fact managed to notch up a gain of almost about 90 paise and close somewhere around 60.75, which could probably be because of the strong inflows by the FI that we have seen in the equity markets. Another important highlight of the yesterday's trade was that the technology as a pack continues to languish. So we had seen weakness across names like HCL Tech, TCS. Only Infosys was relatively strong, but the rest of the technology stocks were down because some of the numbers have not been that well. Plus the rupee part is actually not playing out in favor of them. Also, Adani Group was in limelight. So entire pack like Adani Enterprise, Adani Port, they were all up smartly about 5 to 7%. And some of the heavyweights like L&T was up about 6%, and Asian Paints, which came out with stellar set of numbers, was also almost about 7% up. There could be some amount of consolidation around this 6150, 6200 levels because remember friends that in the past 4 occasions we've seen that the market has actually not been able to surpass this level that smoothly. So we think that there is a case for some kind of a consolidation in the market around 6150, 6200 levels. No major downside is likely, but after a pause or consolidation you could see some uptick when we approach the expiry. On that note, let me invite Sadhana to take us through important F&O cues and the ideas that we could have on the F&O side.
Good morning friends, let's have a view on derivatives. After a tussle between bulls and bear throughout the session, in last hour of trades we have seen that index not only hit a fresh intraday high but also breached the straddle break-even point of 6236, and Nifty finally snapped the session with a marginal gain of 0.25%. In this period we have seen that long positions were built up by market participants as around 1.07 lakh shares were added in open interest, and cost of carry also increased by 30%. And put call ratio increased from 1.26 to 1.27, indicating put option has added around 10 lakh shares in open interest, whereas call option has added around 0.97 lakh shares in open interest. With every rise in the market, call options activity is shifting from 6,100 and 6,200 to 6,300, 400 and 500, whereas on put option 6,100 and 6,200 is becoming more active. So we may see market may find support in between these two levels, 6,100 and 6,200, and on higher side 6,300 can be targeted. But from intraday perspective, 6,170 might act as a good support. And one can go long on Oriental Bank of Commerce on intraday perspective with a stop loss of 156.20. Thank you.
Here are the important news and events that we are tracking today. First of all, the companies which will be announcing numbers. Wipro, we are looking at a net profit of about 1,840 crore. Kane India, we are looking at a net profit of about 3,410 crore. Remember friends, this would be a spectacular quarter for cane because the production has been good and even the realization has been exceptionally good. So some positive action possible in the Cane India stock in today's market. And Yes Bank, we are looking at a net profit of 321 crore. Remember friends that because of the steps that were taken by the RBI governor, the banks which have a huge dependence on the bulk borrowing, their costs have gone up. And some of the companies like IndusInd Bank actually came out with good set of numbers. So it remains to be seen what kind of numbers Yes Bank throws up today. Today there is going to be a meeting of finance minister with the chief executives of the public sector banks, and the main points of discussion are going to be two. One is the expected plan to infuse the additional capital to lower the borrowing cost, particularly for the purchase of two-wheelers and the consumer durables. Also, they are going to be reviewing their performance over the last 1 quarter or so. NHPC board is meeting on October 24th to consider a proposal of buyback of shares. In case of telecom, two important developments. One is that the entire spectrum or the space has become dominated by three players, namely Vodafone, Idea and Airtel, and they jointly control almost about 70% market share. And the rest of the industry is actually not able to increase the market share. And in another important development, the government is close to approving a new MATEC guidelines for the telecom sector, which would again be favorable for some of the large players like Bharti, Idea and Vodafone. So watch out for some positive action in the telecom stocks in today's market. The negotiations between the center and state on the important goods and services tax have hit a roadblock, and the main difference of opinion is in the inclusion of petroleum products and the alcohol products under the ambit of the proposed reform. So there is likely to be a further delay in the introduction of this particular reform. Coming to the stock specific news, Polaris has been gearing up to sell its services business unit, and the likely contender could be L&T Infotech, and the firm is estimated to have a value of almost about $400 million. So one can go long on Polaris with a stop loss of 138 and a target of about 145 to about 148. Tata Steel, some positive news as the company has renewed its contract with Network Rail to supply 95% of its rail for at least 5 years. So one can go long on Tata Steel with a stop loss of 329 and a target of about 346 to about 353. Radico Khaitan, again some positive news as the company is likely to hive off its IMFL business as it looks to sell its strategic stake to a foreign investor. So one can go long on Radico with a stop loss of 151 and a target of about 159 to about 162. TCS has been able to get a major order in the infrastructures from Bombardier Transportation. So one can go long on the TCS with a stop loss of 2030 and a target of about 2133 to about 2173. And Karnataka Bank reported extremely weak set of numbers. So one can short bet with a stop loss of 107 and a target of about 102 to about 99. That's it from all of us friends. Have a good trading session and see you tomorrow at the same time.